We better get back, because it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
Welcome to Mostly Horror.
Mostly.
I'm Steve.
And I am Sean.
And we're back with another wonderful episode this week, talking to the writer-director Tyler MacIntyre, his new film, It's a Wonderful Knife, coming out soon. But before we get to that interview, we're joined by brother in pod from Eye of the Duck. Adam is here. Adam, thanks for joining us on a whim today.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. I'm back.
I feel like the Duck Boys have been our most consistent guests in the past year or so. Obviously, Father Dom is fathering currently. Father Dom.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Shout out to Dom for taking on all that I'm sure is being taken on right now. But this kind of came up because we were going to talk about obviously some news in this episode, and we posted about They Follow, and you responded to
yes, you broke the news to me. I didn't know that this was happening, and then I opened my Mark Zuckerberg's Instagram application on my phone, and I saw Mostly Horror posting They Follow, and I couldn't tell if it was like a fan-made poster that you guys were like hyped on, or if it was real news. And so you guys broke the news to me.
Wow. I love to hear that. I also love to think that the poster that they actually put out would be fan made, because it's like so minimal.
Yeah,
it is. It's minimal. That it was like maybe this Reddit thread that got really popular.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But let's bookmark They Follow, and let's jump into some things that our listeners probably already know.
I'm sure you already knew that.
You only tell me stuff I already know.
You already know what I'm going to tell you.
We're going to work our way up. There's been a number of things that have come out in the past week that I feel like are worth touching on. We don't need to spend that much time, and obviously want to talk about They Follow a bit. The first thing, actually yesterday, the trailer for the new Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes film came out, which I don't know if, it seemed, I don't know if you saw it, Sean. You're holding your breath as if you're, I'm curious if either of you saw the trailer, and also if you have seen the 3 other films of this series that came out.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Who should go
Sean,
first?
you seem
Adam.
like you really want to talk.
Okay, all right. So here's the thing. I saw the first one, the first one of them, like bringing it back with James Franco, whatever. I remember like when that movie came out, I think I might have even talked about this on the show before. I remember when the trailer came out, I was like, I'm not interested in this movie.
Dawn? Was it Dawn? Was it Rise?
No, Dawn is 2.
Rise, yeah. I think it's Rise.
It was probably
Dawn,
Rise.
War.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. So Rise was the first one, and I remember like the trailer came out, I wasn't interested. I just truly didn't give a shit. That movie had been out forever, and then Dawn was coming out, and Cameron was like, "Yo, we're gonna go see a movie today." Yeah, dude, nice. I need to get those. But he's like, "Yo, we're gonna go see a movie today. We're gonna go see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes." I was like, "I haven't even seen the first one." He's like, "Well, we're gonna watch it right now. We're gonna go see Dawn later today." And I watched Rise, and I liked it a lot more than I thought. But I didn't love it. It's like whatever. But I'm hanging out with these people. We're gonna go see this movie. Then I saw Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and I still think it's one of the best fucking movies ever. I love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. That movie, there's no other way to say it. That movie fucks so hard and it was just amazing. And Caesar's a badass. And then War was still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'll say. So it was like Rise is my least favorite. Dawn is like a masterpiece. War was still good, but wasn't as good as Dawn. And I didn't watch the full trailer, but I saw like a little clip that they're doing another one. And I was like, let's go, baby. It's time to do a rewatch. So, and then I have barely seen the originals and like the Tim Burton stuff. I know I've seen like bits and pieces, but I want to go through and just watch everything. So yeah, I'm a little geeked. Where are you guys at?
I'm hyped. I really like that those first 3 films of this reboot series. I'm hardly the first person to say this, but my only beef with them is that the titles are all wrong. Like it should be Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes, and then Rise of the Planet of the Apes. You know, like it doesn't make any
Sure,
sense
yeah.
that they're titled that. But I think they're all quite good. But I especially love Dawn. Dawn is really is a special one.
It's so good.
I haven't seen the new trailer,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
I'm hyped.
Yeah.
I'm going to see it.
Yeah, the poster is wonderful. I will say, so, you know, Dawn and Rise, Dawn and War, in my opinion, are obviously wonderful. Partially because
Mhm.
Matt Reeves is the director, and he's a wonderful director. I think that's, you know, he wasn't the director of Rise, and also that had its, you know, like hurdles with fucking Tom Felton and
Oh, that's right. He was in that.
you know what I mean? Like there was it's some just like weird casting choices in that one, and they just like had to do it. They had to set the stage for like the actual shit in Dawn and War. But yeah, I mean, really my only fault in this is just looking at kind of the outline of who's involved in this one is that I don't see Andy Serkis's name on here.
Oh, wow.
And the director Wes Ball has really only done the Maze Runner series, which like it fits the same. Like I kind of get it why they would go with someone like that, but and I don't know, maybe it's gonna be great, but that's my only thing is like I didn't see Andy Serkis.
That's a big issue if he's not involved.
Well,
Like,
I mean,
it's-
there's a reason why Andy Serkis might not be in this film without you know, talking about what happens in War for the Planet of the Apes. But you know, I guess he could. There's many ways Andy Serkis could appear in this, given that he's mostly doing motion capture. But
Yeah.
you know, there's a good reason why he might not be in this one.
Yeah,
That's
I guess it
true.
was more so just like he is the mocap king, and even if it's like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, like you should still bring him in. I will say William H. Macy is on the cast list for this,
What?
which like William H. Macy in
Cool.
a Planet of the Apes film is wonderful. But yeah, I'm glad we're evenly stoked. It's going to be coming out May 24th of next year, so should be a fun one.
Is it weird? So the motion
Nice.
capture actor who played Gordy in Nope, Terry Notary, it would.
Terry
He
Notary,
did
yeah.
such a good job. Do you see his name? I haven't like looked at anything, but do you
No.
see? No, that would have just been so sick. I was thinking like, there's only okay. I guess this isn't true. There's tons of people in the motion capture world who are not like names that people know on a regular basis, but I was just wondering if they threw him in. Also, really quick,
But he's often involved just as like a, you know, he'll choreograph, you know, motion even if he isn't performing it. I wonder if he's
Did
involved in that capacity.
some movement choreography in Fall of the House of Usher.
Really?
It must be for monkeys.
oh,
He
that makes
also-
sense, dude. Well, he's like
Yeah.
that's like I was in the
He's a
Fango
monkey
article
guy.
that I read back when Nope came out. Yeah, that's like one of his specialties specifically.
Yeah.
Is like,
Yeah, he
Like-
literally did Kong.
Well, he's
Yeah.
he's Kong.
no shit. Oh,
Yeah.
dude, amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Gotta
That's
get
so
Terry.
good.
Terry.
Yeah,
Notary.
I tried back then, but we're gonna try again.
We're gonna do it again, and he can notarize our stuff.
And you know, he did what do you call it? Attack the Block as well.
Interesting.
The Joe Cornish film. He does the aliens, which are
Yeah. Oh,
quite
shit.
like ape-like.
Wow.
All right. Yeah.
Also,
this
really
guy's
quick, I just
in a lot of stuff.
Adam, I have to ask. It's completely off subject, but just because we brought up Matt Reeves, have you seen Let Me In?
Oh, the remake of Let the Right One In.
Yes. Yeah. Did you ever see it?
No, I haven't seen it. No,
No.
I should
Homework.
like as a completion. I love the original. And I didn't feel like I needed a remake of it in my life.
That's fair. I saw the remake before I saw the original, and frankly, like the remake more. I know it's blasphemy to say, just as a concept, most of the time, but
I mean, not necessarily. Like, you know, people react
Yeah.
to things differently.
yeah. But I'd be curious what your thoughts would be, especially as someone that loves the original. If you were to ever go back to it, I think it's how
Well,
I. First
I really
found
like Matt Reeves. Yeah, I think he's a great filmmaker. So I'm definitely interested in sort of seeing what his take on that material would be.
Yeah,
But I just have never gotten around to it.
fair. Well, if you
And I
do,
haven't seen the original,
shoot me a DM.
so there.
The original's good. It's obviously great. It's got some weird stuff in it. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I've heard
for right
about
now.
the weird
yeah,
stuff.
It
but
sure has some weird stuff.
yeah, but Okay.
It's also it's kind of the origin for Hoyte van Hoytema is Let the Right
Really?
One In. Yeah, that's like
Holy
that's like
shit.
the thing that puts him on the map, really.
Well,
All right, well
damn.
now I gotta watch it like as soon
Yeah,
as possible.
do it. Do it.
All right. Speaking of things that people probably won't be watching as soon as possible, it was recently announced within the past week that Warner Brothers is toying with the idea of moving their Salem's Lot remake from theaters, which was getting pushed back multiple times, now straight to streaming. To which Stephen King felt like it was his moment to talk about his thoughts on the remake that he's obviously already seen. He said, basically, obviously it seems kind of unfortunate that this another horror film is going to go straight to streaming, especially a remake of a very popular Stephen King story. And so he said, it has the feel of old Hollywood when a film was given the chance to draw a breath before getting to business, when attention spans were longer, in other words. It feels like a horror movie version of slow burn movies like The Great Escape. It builds very well. There are diversions from the book I don't agree with, but on the whole, faithful. And then he spoils a scene. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that Stephen King was willing to kind of like go out on a limb and like
Say
stand
something
up for this
positive.
film that no one's even like saying that the film is bad. It's just like getting sent to streaming.
Right.
But we've kind of talked about this remake already, that we were like interested in seeing it, but it's directed by the guy who did Annabelle Comes Home, so like tempering expectations there. But yeah, curious if you guys have any thoughts specifically on Stephen King, like feeling like he needs to stand up for this remake of his film.
Well, I mean, if I was the author of a text that was being adapted to a feature film and I had a financial stake in receiving a portion of the box office take, I would be standing up for making sure that film made its way to theaters instead of being dumped on streaming. But that aside, I mean, if it's a good film and it would be best served by being seen in a theater, then like, yeah, stand up for it, And I think it's become clear that dumping films on streaming is not it's just not a great business model for anyone involved, really. I think the only reason that a studio would do that at this point is if they don't have confidence in the film and they're looking at it and saying, well, it's not going to be worth the investment to market this thing. It's not going to be worth the investment to take up a screen with this. Let's just put it on our platform. So I'm guessing that's a sign of no confidence.
Two thoughts. Stephen King has in the past been pretty open about disagreeing with movies and saying that a movie sucks. So I don't necessarily know that like I don't know, him giving a positive review to me I'm not going to say like that makes me think it's going to be good, but I don't immediately jump to, he's just saying it because he's paid to say it.
He liked Voyage of the Demeter, so I'll throw that out there.
Did he? Oh yeah, he did. That's a bummer. Which brings me to my second point, which is that the opinions of studios on what is and isn't going to perform well, especially in the horror sphere, is not something that I value much at all. They might be putting it straight to streaming because it's not cookie cutter, basic shit that they think is box office-y enough. Like maybe it's getting put straight there because they think it's bad, which means that it's good, if that makes sense. I don't know. It would be great though.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I'm basically in a spot where I feel like I've learned nothing. I'm just waiting for the fucking movie to come out. I will say that I just watched the new Pet Cemetery and Bloodline, and that was kind of a bit of a mess for so many reasons. And maybe we can. Yeah,
I think that was made for streaming, though, right? It was.
It just got me thinking about like straight to streaming King releases. And granted, this is, it's not even a remake. It's a
prequel to a remake of an adaptation.
Yeah, it's about what's his name, Judd.
Yeah,
yeah. There you go.
I remember when it was announced. It's based on the story that he tells to Lewis, like in like when he's telling him like what the Pet Cemetery is, right? Yeah.
Yes, and I can tell you that they really lay into the sometimes "That is better" line throughout that movie. Like they're like, that's his thing. That's what he does. That's what he says.
It's a good catchphrase.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, very aligned with what you guys are saying. It seems like it's going to be coming out on Max in the coming months, based on like everything that was reported about the Salem's Lot remake. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, like as with, we've talked to a lot of directors that have talked about like how their worst enemy is test screenings.
Yeah.
And that's probably what this is like just some, this is probably a slow burn and had bad testers and they're just gonna dump it, which is a bummer. But I will say, like, I know that I probably don't have to explain this to anybody, but like, right, not long before we were recording this, I was watching Gen V, the new The Boys spinoff, and even it's so evident how difficult it is to watch things on TV sometimes. Like, if I was trying to really pay attention to a film, I was watching it. My living room is pretty bright, and like I couldn't see anything happening on the screen just because it was so dark.
Yeah,
I was like, if I was trying to watch something that I like, and like it's a good show, but if I was like truly trying to pay attention and not just be like energized watching a show, like or entertained, I would be very upset. So I can't even imagine watching a film like this and being like, oh, I can't see it because I'm watching it not in a theater right now. I'm watching it in my living room.
Yeah,
so.
Gotta have the right atmosphere and the right lighting and a million things.
I will say though, King describing it as a throwback New Hollywood picture, like, it kind of makes me want to tune in and watch it.
Yeah,
I'm definitely more interested after hearing his thoughts, I will say. So we'll just kind of see what happens there.
Fingers crossed. That's all I'll say.
The great segues from item to item here, but we talking about things that are in theaters and also on streaming, we gotta just touch on Five Nights at Freddy's. This is our first time recording since it's come out. Have yet to see it yet, and I think Sean is the same way. We'll preface this by saying that Tyler MacIntyre, who we talked to in our interview, is one of the writers of this film, so we quickly talk about its performance with him. But over the weekend, it did $135 million worldwide, which is like the third biggest horror opening ever. It's just huge. Like Blumhouse's biggest release, the biggest Halloween release ever. It's absolutely insane. And not only that, it released at the same time on Peacock, which I think is getting like buried in a lot of this. Like it had the tandem release strategy, and it became Peacock's most watched film or series ever within its first 5 days on streaming.
Wow.
So
crazy.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
Like it's there were, as far as I had heard, there were a lot of studios that passed up on this. And people did not think it was going to do well. I think that even, again, if what I read is correct, Emma Tammy, who is the director, basically signed a contract that was like money up front plus a percentage because they still didn't know how it was going to do. And now she's probably making a shit ton because it's killing it in theaters. But yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it with Tyler, but I guess, Adam, I'm curious your specific thoughts because Sean and I have kind of touched on it previously.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say I have absolutely no familiarity with Five Nights at Freddy's. I have not played the game or even really done any homework as to what it's about. I vaguely sort of understand it's some kind of riff on like what if Chuck E. Cheese but spooky, and you know, that's cool. It's incredibly impressive that it has done so well in theaters while also having a day and date streaming release. I think the thing there that it highlights to me is, number one, I think it kind of highlights how few people actually have Peacock. Because I think that if Peacock was a extremely successful streaming app, it would probably have hurt the box office of that film. Especially given the fact that this is, from what I understand, this is a film based on a video game that appealed to a younger generation, a generation that is perhaps not accustomed to going to the theater all the time.
Yeah.
And so it seems to me that that's a group of people that would have been more likely to stream it had they been subscribers to NBC Universal Comcast's Peacock application. But there was a piece that came out recently showing that that they had lost. They've just been hemorrhaging money. Peacock has proven to be a poor investment for them. The other thing that it does for me is that it highlights the transition point that we're in right now, where if you look at what's done well in theaters this year, it's movies not based on superhero IP, but movies based on toys and video games. This Barbie, Super Mario, like this is the new era we're in. Toys and games are where it's at. So on the one hand, I'm surprised that this movie did as well as it did, because I had heard only really quite negative buzz about the quality of the film before its release. But, on the other hand, there's a legion of people who have been playing this game for years and who were very excited to see a big screen adaptation. And here we are.
Yeah, there is an undeniable power in seeing something that you love adapted into something else, even if it ends up being bad. It's just interesting to watch your nostalgia be transferred. And I know, I think we are all just a bit too old to have really been on the Five Nights at Freddy's game, when it came out. But I know my little cousin Guy was absolutely obsessed with it, and I'm sure that he has gone and seen it. And I know that Willy's Wonderland came out a few years ago, and I'm sure that Willy's Wonderland came to be because of the hype of Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know that that's directly what they did, but
I'm sure that was the whole play.
Yes. Yeah. And even something like the Banana Splits, they did a Banana Splits horror movie based
that's right, yeah.
The old variety show, the Hanna-Barbera show. So it's two things tried to jump the gun and be the first to go film for it, but I don't know. I feel obviously we have to watch it for the show. I've never played the games, but I feel like there's 10 of them. And I don't know. The idea of evil animatronics is cool.
I'm very pro evil animatronics.
Yeah.
And Chuck E. Cheese is creepy. So.
Especially when in the case of Five Nights at Freddy's, Jim Henson's Creature Shop made these, which is,
did they really?
A cool extra, little tidbit.
I mean, see, that should be part of the marketing.
The marketing.
That's the most enticing thing to me. Not that it's based on a video game, but that Jim Henson's Creature Shop made animatronics for it.
Yeah,
I guess
honestly.
I guess that's true. I will say they had a very specific design to follow. They weren't just kind of making new things, but
they still brought something to life.
And they're
right?
the best people that could have done the job.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. It was the first thing to knock Taylor Swift off of her podium. In
Take
the theaters,
that, Taylor.
Which is a weird fucking sentence to say as well. Are we going to get into the world where we just have video game and old IP and then concert films? That's all that's in theaters, and 4-hour-long Scorsese films.
I would make the argument. I would make the argument that concert films of the variety of this, the Eras tour, and I think we're getting the Beyonce Renaissance tour. Yeah. That to me is actually no different than an IP-driven blockbuster, because you are talking about artists who have such a high level of cultural saturation that they are IP unto themselves. So when people are going to see those things, I don't think it's just, I missed this concert, I want to go see it. I think it's the same thing we've been talking about. It's an adaptation of a thing I like. I like Taylor Swift. I would like to go see Taylor Swift on the big screen.
Yeah, I will say, I saw Anatomy of a Fall a week or so ago.
I'm looking forward to that.
It's wonderful. And the way in which I could hear every Taylor Swift song through the fucking wall was the worst thing in the world. So I'm happy that Swifties are happy, and I would frankly love to see a concert. I've seen, not a concert film, but I've seen a couple of music-based films. And I would enjoy that if it was an artist that I liked. But
did you guys check out Stop Making Sense when it was in theaters recently?
No, I don't care about Talking Heads that much.
Oh man, I
Yeah.
mean that was like
I know
I
that
saw
that's
that in
next
I saw
level.
that in IMAX, and it was like a transcendent experience for me.
Really? I
Yeah.
think we're about to, in terms of like concert movie sort of stuff. Did you guys hear about what Peter Jackson did? Like what the Beatles did with the AI powered song and Peter Jackson with the Now and Then music video? Do you guys know about this?
Yeah. They've built a new Beatles song using the scraps of old ones and using
Mhm.
machine learning to strip out and isolate Lennon's vocal track, and
Yeah,
now they've built a deep fake music video.
Yep. It's it's with
What the
the
fuck?
surviving members. Yep. Lennon
Yeah.
is back on the song, and then in the music video, it's AI. Like Peter Jackson directed this music video, and it's like you see old Paul and fucking Ringo with the other two, and they're young, and it's the weirdest thing. And I just feel like that technology, you take that and you put that
That's
in.
already going on. Do you know about ABBA Voyage?
No, what is that?
So ABBA Voyage is a live show that you can go to in the UK. It is a holographic ABBA concert, and
Oh my god!
they did like full scans of all of ABBA, and I think they also de-aged them using like archival stuff, and so you can just go and see disco era ABBA perform like their entire songbook on stage.
That is banana sandwich. That
Yeah,
is
we're already there, man. It's happened.
wow.
I'm like
Well,
scrubbing through this music video for the Beatles, and I need to watch it as soon as.
yeah, it's nuts, dude.
This
I
is
just saw it
terrifying.
like this morning. So
But this kind of proves my point, though, where we sort of say, I think we're at a point where these long enduring musical acts, like they are now like their IP. They're looked at in the same way.
yeah,
It's like, oh my god, do you hear there's a new Beatles music video? It's like, that's impossible. There can't be a new Beatles music video. Like it
But
doesn't,
there
that's
is.
you can't do that. But because it is it's like Superman, it's like Batman. We've got to have a new Beatles every year.
Yeah. I gotta
Oh,
say,
God.
if there was an opportunity to go like that ABBA type thing, if I could go see Queen like that, like I would do it.
Yeah,
I
I would
would've-
see him with
I
Adam
would've-
Lambert. What do you mean?
Yeah, I want to see Freddy. Like that's the whole thing.
I know it's not the same.
Yeah, it's
My wife and I went to see them with Adam Lambert. It was pretty good.
I'm sure that it was, and if tickets came up right now, like I would love to do that. I'm not, no disrespect to Adam, I would love to see even a holographic Freddy just
Sure.
on stage, right? So,
but think about that though, right? Like we're sort of, again, we're proving their point. We're proving that there's a value to this technology is
100%.
by saying like oh man, I wish I like I don't care that it's fake. I don't care that it's like put together by robots. Like I just want to get the chance to experience a slice of what that might have been like.
yes, it's. I was gonna say you're 100% right. The thing with, I mean, not to bring a whole, because we could do a whole episode on AI stuff again, but I do believe that there is value to that. It's just we are going to use it in all the wrong ways. Like we're going to do all the worst things with it. We're going to destroy so many things that we have.
We'll destroy democracy, but at least you can go see ABBA.
Right, yeah. But no, so I'm not saying like it's worth it because it's a tool that we are not responsible enough to use. But the tool itself is not the problem, we are. I will also say an aside thing morally about whatever, as much as I'd love to see Freddy, I think it's fucked up. Like the idea of me dying and someone using me, years after, like that's
What if it
fucking
means that your
awful.
estate gets money in the future?
It
And your
if I
family?
couldn't sign off on it before, then I don't think you should be able to do it. Like it's
That's weird.
rough. But stuff like that has always happened. Like Dr. Seuss never wanted any of his stuff. He just wanted the books to be the books. And the second he died, they started making animated things and whatever. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
just is
fuck
what it
Dr.
is.
Seuss.
Well, yes,
Yes. Speaking of things that shouldn't be touched and should be left alone. So a couple days ago, I don't even know how to explain what I experienced. The day before Halloween, I opened my phone, similar to what Adam was saying. Actually, what happened is I get a DM from Sydney. I'm at work, I think, and it's just a thing that says they follow, and it was from one of those like aggregate Twitters, like aggregate film Twitters,
Mhm.
and I was like, I think I immediately said, well, that's fake. And then I go over to the Twitter of our trusty Bloody Disgusting, and I see that they have also posted They Follow. So Neon, the studio Neon, announced that they're calling it a long-awaited sequel to It Follows, which came out almost a decade ago. Shiver. 10 years ago, 2014.
Good Lord.
Horror, modern horror classic.
That's
It
the true
Follows.
horror of this, is just that we have
ago.
aged a decade since the last one.
Yes.
Yeah. But basically there's a sequel to It Follows called They Follow that's coming out seemingly next year. For context, anyone that doesn't know, this was like the little film that could. It kind of just splashed on to the scene. I don't even know what company released it, what like studio released it. It wasn't Neon originally, and it did like 15 million theaters, but it became this immediate cult classic. David Robert Mitchell, the director, did a coming of age drama called The Myth of the American Sleepover, which was at
Did you guys see that?
I haven't yet. I've wanted to, because I like his
either.
work. Yeah. And then he did his follow-up in 2018 was Under the Silver Lake, which I love, and I know that you said that you enjoyed it as well.
I love Under the Silver Lake, yeah.
But that was it. And I'll get my thoughts out first, because I've been waiting to say this. Yeah. It Follows, and I'm sure Sean feels very similar, is very near and dear to my heart, because not only is it a wonderful independent horror film, it was shot in Metro Detroit, Michigan, and it feels like home. It's a really weird nostalgic feel in that film. It's reminiscent of old horror without being a direct callback to like retro horror. It is like, ambiguous in terms of when it's actually set. It has an amazing score. Go listen to our episode with Disaster Piece from like 2 years ago now. And it's really just a perfect independent original horror film. And even if They Follow is a good film, we still have the chance of muddying the original film.
Yeah.
And I know I'm one of those people that's like, well, if you don't like the artist's new record, you can still listen to the old one. I understand that I can always go watch It Follows. But It Follows is the rare film that lives in this chasm by itself, where it doesn't have comparison to really anything else. Like, there's a lot of films that have come out since that kind of rip off of It Follows, even like Smile, like immediately you're thinking It Follows, but it doesn't muddy It Follows. When you put out the sequel, if it's great, amazing. But you have the chance of it not living up to the original film, which just immediately muddies the original. And I hate the thought of that. I think that this is the rare time where I'm just like, leave that shit alone. It's perfect as it is. You don't need a sequel. And I couldn't even think of what a sequel would be. They did all the things that they needed to do with the lore in the first film. It was contained. I don't like the plural they. It's too much.
That's fucked up.
Well, it's the alien. It's the Cameron aliens to Scott's Alien.
Yeah. I just don't. I am unfortunately very against this. I will obviously see it. I will be so excited if it's good, but just on principle, I'm bummed that they are choosing to do this. That's my piece.
Fair. Adam?
I'm excited to see it. I won't lie. I totally get where you're coming from. Like, and I think I feel the same way in the sense that I don't need every movie to get a sequel. I certainly didn't finish this and think there needs to be follow up here.
I never thought that.
I never once thought that, and it is worth noting that Micah Monroe is returning in the lead role.
Yes.
So this is a direct sequel. But I'm curious to see what another David Robert Mitchell film is like, because we haven't gotten one since Under the Silver Lake, and I thought that was an extremely well-made movie, a really cool deconstruction of like the kind of noir detective story. My friend of mine, Ethan Warren, wrote this great piece over at Bright Wall Darkroom about that movie, and I just want to read this one quote from it because I think it's so good. He said, Sam as the noir detective made realistically toxic. And that's kind of like one of his many like theses on that film. But like he takes, Mitchell takes this idea of sort of the guy who moves to LA and starts experiencing weird things and starts investigating it, but shows you like, well, actually, if a guy was like one of those people in those books who's like drinking all the time and womanizing all the time and like, getting into trouble all the time, they would actually be the worst fucking person to spend any time with. Now you're going to spend 2 hours and 10 minutes with them.
Yeah.
And it's just and it's, I don't know, the way that story unfolds and the way it's shot and the feel and the tone of it is very specific, and it really just kind of clicks for me on every level. So
really quick, I also will say that film, a lot of people use the term like Lynchian when describing something that's just like weird, which I don't like. Mm-hmm. I think that film is as close to like Lynchian as
that film is properly Lynchian.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, and I think if that film had done better, this film they follow would probably not exist. But that film didn't do well, and he's been kind of in director jail ever since then. So, if this is his stepping stone back into getting to direct full time, then I'm happy for it. As much as I think that. You were mentioning sort of the setting is sort of like unclear. Like we understand it's the Detroit metro area, and it's like very cool and very specific because of that. But the thing that is very ambiguous is sort of the time, the when of that film.
Yes.
It's this sort of feeling of like, well, it kind of feels like latchkey kid generation of like the late 80s, early 90s, and there's this very like cool synthwave score, but at the same time you've got people reading books on like clamshell e-readers that fit inside your pocket, and so there's this kind of weird thing going on there. And on the one hand, there's the part of my brain that looks at that and goes, I would love to know a little bit more about the time and place of this film. But then there's the other part of me that's just like, I really like not knowing anything beyond the just sort of weird ambiguity. So I'll say I'm tentatively excited. And either way, I hope it brings David Robert Mitchell back because I want to see more from him generally.
True.
Yeah. I have so many thoughts. So really quick about the time aspect. I was just recently watching an interview with with David, and he was saying that the whole thing, like a lot of it came from a dream that he had of this thing that was following him that would often look like different people. So essentially, the plot of the movie. But the whole reason that he is ambiguous with like the time placement and frankly just other things that don't really make sense in the movie is to keep a dreamlike feel. Like you were saying, the weird clam shell phone thing, the fact that a lot of cars are really modern, but then a lot of them are really, really old, but they look like they were just made. They exclusively watch old black and white movies, things like that. And I agree. I like that dream-like feel. I am in between the two of you. I'm very curious to see what this is going to be. There is a part of me that is excited, that wants to know like what's going to happen. But at the same time, it is the Strangers situation. Steve, you talked about it being muddied.
Oh, right.
And the reality is, and we've said this all the time on the show, like we are open to sequels and remakes, and our belief is, you always will have the original thing. Something new does not undo that. But in terms of the way that we perceive things, I mean, the way that we're feeling right now, the way I've certainly felt about The Strangers is the way that a lot of people felt when they made another Michael Myers movie, because in terms of the social experience and idea of this character and this story, it completely changes everything. There are people that saw this one movie and had this experience that you simply cannot have now. Because even you don't even have to see all the other movies, but just seeing this character or Slender Man is another great example. This might seem chaotic, but like people cannot experience Marble Hornets the way that that people did when Marble Hornets was coming out, because Slender Man is now a meme and all these other things. So I understand the
Well, I
fear.
think you can't experience that because the experience of that was
Well-
a new video comes out every couple of weeks, and the anticipation of that was a very real part of the experience. You know?
Yes, absolutely. I just mean that, like, if only those first 26 videos had existed, if there was if it never became a meme, if there was never
Sure.
a game, I think that even then those 26 videos would still be would have more weight and power to them versus the goofiness of Slender Man now, and the obviously the tragedy that is associated with it. Just everything impacts everything. But the main thing that I'm worried about, above everything else, is if Disaster Piece is not attached to this, then I think it is guaranteed to be a misfire, because it's not just a score. Like, I think, like, this movie is great. I'm not taking away anything else from It Follows, but the score is so unique while being familiar at the same time and feeling nostalgic, and it is really prominent in the experience of that movie. It's almost like they're working in, like, with each other in a way that I don't think I'm not saying other movies don't do that, but it is happening in a very specific way in this movie, where I don't know. I just can't really see them having somebody else do it, or make, like, this time missing the importance of that and making the soundtrack less important than it is in this one. So I guess I just don't know that they can really truly recreate what they did in this first movie. But maybe that's not what I don't know. Like, because we don't want.
Well, I
just
think by
the same
virtue of it,
movie
sort of
again.
like
Mhm.
it kind of, I think it's one of those things where it's sort of like right place, right time. You can't
Exactly.
recreate what made it so perfect in the moment at which it was released.
Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about, I remember around the time this came out, Tarantino sort of coming out with he was interviewed about what he'd been watching lately, and he kind of went off on this movie. He was like, that's like the one good movie I've seen this year, but also it kind of in the third act it like stopped making sense and became like nonsense, and I wish they hadn't like blown up their own like mythology. I would be curious to see if that has any impact on the film, because I imagine that if you are David Robert Mitchell and someone like Tarantino, says something like that, it probably sticks with you for a few
Yeah.
years, and then you come back and get a chance to make another film. I wonder, do you try and clarify the lore and mythology of the creature that follows in such a way that someone like Tarantino can't be mad about it?
Well,
That's
it's just like weird because like the film is never, it's about they do just enough with the lore. It's just
Mhm.
they don't need to go that further, and it's really like it's a very personal kind of story about what's Micah's character's name, Jay. Like a very personal story about Jay, and like the father at the end. Like it's all like just below the sea level kind of storytelling, but that's where I'm like, I feel like I don't want to know where this came from. You know what I mean? Like I don't need
Yeah.
all that sort of backstory. I feel like,
Yeah.
and also like it's 10 years later. Does she have kids, and like the kids are being followed? Like what could this possibly be? If it's not a brand new story somewhere else, and it's sticking with the same characters, what could this possibly be?
If I had to guess from the title, this is I'll put I'll like mark my territory here. I think this is what I think is going to happen. In the first film, it's this singular like entity following one person, and then there's like the chain of people connected to that one person through the sexual transmission of it, right? But I would imagine that in a sequel, we will learn that there are multiple people who are being followed by multiple entities, and they will
Yes.
probably find each other
Yes.
and band together and try to end this once and for all. That would be
Yes.
my guess.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe there's something tied into like maybe we find out that she actually did kill hers, and they're coming to her to like figure out how to get
Right,
rid of theirs or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It could be something like that.
Or,
Yeah.
or there was in the killing of it, there was some sort of ripple that had the other ones found out about it. I don't know, but I do imagine that there's going to be multiple things. I mean, really,
it gives too much personality to the thing, to the
agreed.
it.
Yeah, I do not want an origin story. I mean, I'm glad it's not like a prequel. I definitely didn't want a straightforward origin story, but yeah, I don't want to unmask this monster. I will also say that They Follow it. The sequel, there's a real missed opportunity to have gone with It Follows Part 2, Electric Boogaloo. But I am excited about the future sequels. We're going to have We Follow, The Followers, The Followed, My Cousin Vinny Follows.
Nosotros Followemos.
Yeah.
That would be in Spanish.
No, man, I don't know. I think that there is, to me, it feels like the decision in itself is walking on thin ice, and I just hope that you don't fall through. But maybe something interesting comes out of it. We'll see.
Well, I'll just say again, I'm tentatively excited. I want to see what he's got up his sleeves.
Listen,
just bring Disaster Piece back. Pay him whatever he wants.
I will go see it. I will say I'm going to send an email to someone who we may have emailed before, inquiring about whether or not they're participating in this film, and we'll see if we get a response.
Okay.
That puts a nice little bow on things that you probably already know. We are going to get everyone over to our interview with Tyler MacIntyre, the director of It's a Wonderful Knife. Sean, any final thoughts on that conversation? I will preface this to our listeners. This is a rare conversation that we have that is like short. This is like a 20-minute interview. We don't do a lot of those. It felt like we were speeding through everything. So if you hear me running out of breath while talking in this interview, that's why. It was still a great interview. But Sean, any final thoughts?
Yeah, we only had Tyler for a minute, but I think he gives some great insights into this movie and what developing it was like, taking this classic Christmas tale. It's weird to be talking about Halloween just happened. I don't love that we're talking about Christmas already, but the movie was definitely fun, and while short, our conversation with Tyler is a good one. I think you guys are going to like it.
As always, stick around and hear our mostly horror recommendations of the week after that. We will catch you on the other side. All right, we are joined today by Tyler MacIntyre. Tyler is a writer and director known for his work on Tragedy Girls, VHS 99, and the brand new Five Nights at Freddy's film. His newest film, It's a Wonderful Knife, is in theaters on November 10th and will be on Shudder in the future as well. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, guys. I'm pumped.
Absolutely, man.
Stoked to have you.
We got to jump right into something. Yesterday, it was announced that I got to double check the volume on this. Volume 2, issue number 22 of Fangoria is going to have It's a Wonderful Knife on the cover. The subscriber edition, which we're subscribers, so that's going to be the edition that we want to see as well. We actually talked to Joe Lynch, who had the last Fangoria cover for the last quarter. He was obviously stoked about that. I'm sure every horror fan would be over the moon. What's it like to have this cover?
Hey, I texted, that came out yesterday. I texted a bunch of people about it. Like, it's really a childhood dream for me in terms of like my first, the first issue I got was like the Freddy's Dead coverage, nice. Back in, and so it's been a long time coming, but definitely something that's definitely, I'm really excited about. And so I was literally just like ordering some copies so I can maybe get one framed, put in the office, and then
there you go.
Yeah,
tell stories about it for the rest of my life. But yeah, it's I've always loved that magazine. And it's definitely become such a important part of what horror is and kind of shaping the conversation. And so hey, I'm pumped to be included.
Yeah, I will say, like, most covers of Fango are great. The angel just looks like the whole vibe of the cover is like really perfect too. So it's a great look for the cover, especially around the seasons. Yeah,
it has kind of a wintry vibe to it, which I was happy that they went with.
Yeah, the color scheme's great.
Yeah, I'm really excited to add it to the collection. I have I'm a little bit behind right now on my reading material, but I got multiple Fangos here that I gotta get through soon. We got to talk about It's a Wonderful Knife. Obviously, It's a Wonderful Life is this this classic Christmas tale, beloved to many. You know, I used to watch it with my grandma all the time growing up. Where does the idea come to take such a Christmas classic, you know, that is in the homes of millions of Americans' families on Christmas Day, Christmas Eve, the Christmas season, and turn it into a slasher and just completely stomp on it and honor it in this cool way? Where does that idea come from?
Yeah, I mean, well, our screenwriter Michael Kennedy, like he's sort of like his first film he got made was a kind of like a body swap movie. Like it's kind of more like a freaky Friday the 13th kind of thing.
Sure.
It's called Freaky that came out in 2020.
Yeah.
And so like I think he has his finger on the pulse of like, oh, maybe I could do another one of these. And
Sure.
and so and I've always wanted to do like a Christmas horror movie. Like I love Christmas movies. I've I've done a bunch of them over the years, and I really obviously love horror films. And like I think they kind of work together because it's kind of a high stakes time, like and you can do some kind of crazier things, and there's something very fun about juxtaposing all that cheery imagery with really horrific imagery.
Yes.
And so yeah, like and while this movie's like it's not really like a beat for beat remake of It's a Wonderful Life, we definitely kind of borrow that like kind of high concept, like I'm making a wish and kind of showing a life that could have been. And I think that it was just a fun sandbox to play in, and people seem to understand it kind of right away. And then if you can put that frame around a slasher, then it's a lot of fun to figure out what goes inside.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. We also don't want to get like too spoilery here, obviously, because it hasn't come out yet. But I even think I don't know if you want to call it cold open, but like the cold open is a good kind of take on getting you into the world and then quickly subverting it too. And you're like, oh shit, this is what this is going to be, which is just a great way to kind of set that stage. So I loved what you guys did with kind of the structure of the beginning of the film as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like the structure is probably the most unlike It's a Wonderful Life in that like we kind of like that movie is interesting because it's about an hour and a half in when he finally gets to like the nightmare version of the town and starts to get to really the high concept of like how you'd explain the movie. Whereas we kind of need to cover, we don't have that time. We need to like cover that ground, kind of a lot quicker. And so as a result, the beginning of our movie, what we sort of settled on was it's kind of like the end of a slasher movie, where you sort of like that's the kicking off point. But then we see the fallout of that, and then we kind of introduce our kind of spin on it and are able to sort of reset the table and have a different kind of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. It's when I heard the title and what the premise was, again, I watched this movie. I watched It's a Wonderful Life with my grandma so many times growing up, and was immediately like, what are they going to possibly do with that concept, to twist it into a slasher? But I think you guys did a great job. I have to ask you, you mentioned Christmas horror movies in a second, just really quick. Do you have some favorite like Christmas horror movies that you might, recommend to people or?
Yeah. I mean, like my favorite from the last couple of years that I've been recommending to a lot of people is Better Watch Out. Chris Beckover. Tragic Girls played like essentially like a double feature at Fantasia with them, and I was just like, man, this movie is fucking awesome. And so I've got to know Chris a little bit since then, and and I think it's really fun. And not a lot of people know about it too. Like it's it got a pretty good release, but not so much here in the US. And so as a result, like I am pretty evangelical about that. And so and then but I like a lot of the ones that I grew up with. I definitely one that I return to every year is Richard Donner's Scrooged. Like that was a horror movie. And I think that's I like my Christmas movies with a little of the dark stuff. So
need that spice on top of the snow. I feel it.
I also like that it's becoming kind of more of a subgenre. I mean, it's always been a subgenre, but like even recently, there's rumors that the new Scream is going to be set during Christmas. You got Terrifier 3 that's going to be a Christmas film. So more people are just like latching onto it as an aesthetic as opposed to like It's a Wonderful Life, which is very much like a Christmas film. That's also horror.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Christmas has sort of expanded that it's kind of like a sixth of the year, kind of leading into the holidays. So it's, I guess there's room for movies to be, sort of set there in that time, for sure. It's just, it's one of those things that you just need to be cognizant of because you don't want to get too tropey about it,
Yeah,
sure. But it's like you were saying, that juxtaposition though of taking like this happy time of year and that friendly imagery that we all hold dear, and dirtying it up a bit is one of my favorite things. So
yeah. I'm speaking of, so not only are you doing it with the tone of the film is the great balance of comedy and horror, but you have, you know, Joel McHale, who's a hilarious person, playing more of a straight role in this film, I would say, and then Justin Long, who's horror icon, just icon in general, Catherine Isabel, who previously on the pod, and as well as, you know, a horror icon in her own right. I'm curious, like, it's a good, and everyone else that's in this cast, you have a great balance of styles, I would say, acting styles and just like personas. I'm curious, you know, what everyone kind of brought to the table, or how it was filming with everyone, you know, from Joel to Justin to Catherine.
Yeah, we were very fortunate with the cast. I mean, like I try to be as careful as I can during the casting process, because
Mhm.
you know, that's where a lot of your decisions kind of like, you know, like if you have any problems, often the route is, you know, like you should have considered like the group dynamics and building your team kind of differently. You know, it's not like very little, you know, is things that you can you know, change on the day. Like I find that a lot of just assembling the team is the most important part, and casting is so important. And so, like, you know, for us, we knew that we had a lot of pressure on our lead, and so we had kind of made a list of people we were considering, and I had Jane Widdop on a list of mine, because we had I'd seen her in, or sorry, I'd seen them in Yellow Jackets, and they had a very you know, kind of standout part. And so when we were looking for people to play Winnie, you know, we reached out, and they did a very good self-tape.
Mhm.
And we kind of knew that we could sort of build the kind of ensemble, especially the younger ensemble, kind of around what they were bringing to it. And then Joel came on kind of early. Like he was you know, like somebody that the distributors were very excited about, and I was very excited about, and so it was a good kind of fit. And he was kind of up for the idea of sort of playing him a bit against type. Like, you know, he's sort of
Yeah.
known for being a bigger comedian who's very you know, sharp and very acerbic and usually very cynical. And I was like, no, you're like a dad who's drunk the Kool-Aid, you know, like we need Hallmark dad, you know, like, and
Yeah.
he was like, I can do that, you know, and he still gets his, you know, one-liners in there, but like he starts off in this, you know, playing a role he doesn't usually do.
Yeah.
And then later on, he has some more dramatic stuff in the film, and so I think he appreciated that he was showing some extra, or some type of colors that he doesn't normally get to do,
Yeah.
and really embrace that, was there to kind of serve the story, and really set a great example for like the younger cast, like on set, you know, in terms of like, he just like, what, it wasn't about like, he's a fucking, you know, star, and no
Yeah.
one. And he's not acting like that. He's not playing that. He's there serving the story. He's being like just a guy in a 5-person scene who's setting up your joke, you know. And that was really kind of awesome to see. And then you know, like you know, finding somebody to kind of counterweight everything, like Justin, who you know, like a lot, like comparatively, the other performances are pretty grounded, but Justin's pretty out there, you know,
Yeah.
like, and he's meant to be this sort of like, you know, like a kind of mustache twisting Hallmark villain, kind of run amok.
Yeah.
Like, and he's like this corporate piece of shit who, like, you know, his like real estate scheme gets like spurned, and then he like flies off the handle, you know, like, and that's a very fun place to put somebody like Justin, because he has a ton of ideas. And he kind of came in with all these like things about, like, he has this very specific look in mind, a lot of artifice, a lot of that, you know, he's like a smarmy Michael Douglas from Wall Street sort of dude, you know, like, and that's not who he normally gets asked to play. He's like a very affable, you know, very charming person who has this kind of guy next door quality to him. And so trying to play him a bit like a bit older, a bit smarmy, a bit, you know, is something that's, I think, very fun for him. And so he came in with a ton of ideas around that. And it just became for me about trying to, like, you know, direct the fire hose a little bit, and then, you know, figure out what, you know, works in the context of our story. And then you know, we had a lot of great kind of like local finds, like Jess McLeod and Sean Deppner, and like Jess was somebody who I'd seen in One of Us Is Lying, and who was a bit of a standout. But we cast a really wide net for Bernie, and then their character is very important in our story, and they really got like that balance of eccentricity and the comedy and everything. And so it was but primarily just had like an energy that really bounced off Jane really well, and their
Mhm.
relationship really became kind of the central kind of story for us, and it's kind of my favorite element of the film, like the type of like, and it really changed kind of based on the type of work that they were doing. And then like Katie was somebody that I had in mind for Aunt Gail, because I knew she was Vancouver local. I loved her in Ginger Snaps, kind of when I was in school, and have been sort of like looking for something to put her in, and so it just seemed like a really good fit. And she kind of came in and gave it her all, and it's just a lot of fun to kind of chat with her, and really became a big part of the chemistry that we had.
Yeah, we had mentioned briefly earlier, but we had Catherine on a few months ago to talk about her work and stuff. And pre-strike, and she had mentioned she couldn't tell us any details, didn't give us anything, but had mentioned that she might be involved in a Christmas horror coming up.
I'm so excited to tell you guys about this Christmas horror film. I can't say anything else. So we're like, all right, shit, we got to get you back on.
Yeah, we got to get you back on.
Here we are. So after the strike, we'll circle back with that. But
yeah, it was just so fun. Kind of like what you were saying with Joel specifically. There were just multiple familiar faces with Joel McHale, Catherine Isabel, Justin Long, playing roles that I haven't seen them in before. Seeing Justin, even just Justin with the blonde hair and whatever contacts you had him in, was unsettling enough for me. And I hadn't seen Jane.
It's unsettling in person too, because like you talk, you're just like, whoa, he's kind of intense,
Yeah. Yes, I'm watching him in the Goosebumps show right now, and I'm having such a blast with his role there. Just love Justin, but. Yeah, the cast that you put together was great, was what I was trying to say. And it was just fun to see these familiar faces in very different roles, and these new faces given the performance that they did.
Right. It was also kind of fun. We were trying to get somebody like we ended up with William B. Davis in the role, and like a lot of people like the X-Files and stuff. And it's just like, because there's shots in Vancouver for so long, like there's a lot of like a lot of people that you get set to consider like are these sort of people who've been around in shows you love and stuff, and so like the bench is deep up there. It's pretty fun.
Well, Tyler, I know we don't have you for a lot more time. We would be remiss if we didn't mention you are one of the writers on the new Five Nights at Freddy's film, which we mentioned at the very top. And I want to touch on this just before we let you go. It's absolutely doing gangbusters right now, which I don't know why so many studios passed on this film, but it's obviously, had one of the biggest openings in October in horror and anything in a long time. I'm really curious, your initial thoughts on just seeing 130 plus million in the first weekend, but also just, it's a very beloved franchise. And I'm curious your thoughts for any like people that may have doubted it, I guess, in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, like what excites me most about it is that it really kind of shows a bit of a shot across the bow of like younger horror fans. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the like the big successful IPs that we've seen this year, like Barbie and Super Mario Brothers. Like we have a very IP driven industry in Hollywood. But like Mario Brothers is an IP from when I was a kid. You know what I mean? Right. And Barbie is from like when my mom was a kid. So like we're going back to wells that are quite back in the public consciousness, but even though like those are obviously very beloved brands that have been around for a long time, but like Five Nights at Freddy's, like 2014 that first game came out, and like those are younger fans. Like this movie is for them, and so like like a lot of the kind of reactions were very interesting to see, because like I'm in a I'm like hearing from friends who are kind of more like entrenched horror fans in their 40s who are just like, I don't know, I don't get it, and then you're like in the audience with kids who are like on their feet like cheering, and you're just like, it feels a little bit more like when I was a kid and went and saw Ninja Turtles and my dad didn't get it,
Sure.
And the thing is like and like fortunately I was and I worked on the movie, so I think I kind of saw the charm of it kind of earlier on, and so I'm glad to see it kind of like actually working in a way, because I mean having it earn it's the third biggest horror opening of all time,
Wild.
And so like and that's how you get people's attention, and then how you get them to see the value that other people see in things.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. I couldn't agree more. I think, not everything is like, not everything needs to be for a 40-year-old horror fan. Like at the end of the day, like not every, gateway horror is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And sometimes you just need to let it be, gateway horror. And especially if it's gonna attract this mass crowd. It's wonderful. Well, Tyler, I know we're at the end of our time. Really appreciate you hopping on to chat. Again, It's a Wonderful Knife is out on theaters November 10th and will be on Shudder in the future. Do you know if we have a date for Shudder? Is it still up in there sometime in the holidays?
It's gonna be in December. It'll be before the holidays, but yeah, there's the theatrical component. November 10th is the big push, but yeah, you should be able to gather around the old fireplace and watch It's a Wonderful Knife with the family and all the grandparents and the kids. Watch the holidays.
Yeah. Is it a good back to back with It's a Wonderful Life right after? Or
I'm sure somebody should do that, and I personally haven't taken the plunge yet, but I would encourage you to do both.
Great.
I'm gonna highly recommend that. So
awesome.
Second that.
Well,
yeah.
Tyler, really appreciate this. Have a great rest of your day. All right. Thank you all so much for listening to our interview with Tyler MacIntyre. Go check out It's a Wonderful Knife if you haven't already in select theaters, or wait till December when it's out on Shudder. As always, it's time for our mostly horror recommendations of the week. We will start off with our good friend Adam's rec here. This is a great I feel like we have you on at the beginning of all of your series.
It's
like
it's worked out really every time it's kind of worked out that way. So we just finished up Legends of the Eye of the Duck, this massive sprawling series we did on the sort of 1980s dark fantasy genre, the reaction to Lucas. And I think last time I was on, we were covering Conan at the time, Conan. And so we've wrapped that up now. We finished it off last week, at least as of the day of this recording. And this coming week, we're starting a new series, Eye of the Duck Necronomicon. We're going to be covering all of the Evil Dead films, as well as some bonuses. So we'll be doing, The Evil Dead, Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. And then our bonus episodes coming in the middle, we'll do Bubba Hotep, sort of looking at Bruce Campbell post-Evil Dead. We'll do Drag Me to Hell, looking at Sam Raimi's return to horror. We'll look at The Cabin in the Woods, Drew Goddard's sort of, thesis on why is it that we like Evil Dead. And then we'll follow those up with Evil Dead 2013 and Evil Dead Rise. Which I'm just very hyped for this series, but I'll say that my mostly horror recommendation is going to be one of these films, going to be Bubba Hotep, which I feel like, despite being a kind of cult classic, is also one that doesn't really get enough love, I think. And it's so good. It's a great, I think one of the big takeaways from covering these Evil Dead films already, we've recorded most of the series at this point, is just that Bruce Campbell, he never really got to be the movie star he should have been. I think he was a little bit too late or a little bit too early for the exact kind of guy that he is. Yeah. And when you watch Bubba Hotep, you can kind of see a condensation of like the entire career that he could have had all in one performance. And it's just a great, great film, a lovely sort of meditation on aging and fame. And it's got some good mummy shit in it.
Amazing. I haven't seen it. I gotta see it. And we love Evil Dead.
Do you know the premise of it, Sean?
No, when you said it, I didn't even recognize it, but then I pulled up
so
images.
The premise of Bubba Hotep, for anyone, I should have said this, for anyone who hasn't seen Bubba Hotep or doesn't know what it is, the premise of the film is that Bruce Campbell plays like a 68-year-old Elvis Presley who is living in a retirement home. And no one believes he's Elvis because, as far as we all know, Elvis died on the toilet. But in the reality of this film, he traded places with an Elvis impersonator when he got tired of being famous. And due to a series of mishaps and misfortunes, is now living at this nursing home. And his only friend is a man who believes himself to be President JFK, also famously dead. And the two of them do battle with an ancient evil mummy that is picking off people that live at the nursing home.
Genius. Absolute genius.
And it's from Don Cascarelli, the creator of Phantasm.
That's beautiful. I will be watching
early
it.
2000s. Yeah.
I will be watching it this weekend. That is so good.
Yeah.
Wow. Excited for it. Steve, you're looking it up.
I was not expecting that. Yeah, no, this is wonderful, and I also will be
I've
watching
seen
it
the
this
art
weekend.
before and have just never seen it. Gotta see it.
Anytime I talk to someone about Bubba Hotep, that seems to be the response, including Dom. Dom was just like, yeah, I remember that in like the video store. That's a crazy poster. I always wondered what that could be. Yeah.
I will say
And we've got 2+ hours on it coming up real soon.
Wow.
Yeah.
I will say I was really curious yesterday when I was on Letterboxd and I saw that you had watched Drag Me to Hell and I think Bubba Hotep were the two most recent ones on your list. I was like,
what is Adam up
Adam's
to?
going through something, I think. Just going through podcast recording. But that's wonderful. And yeah, we love an Evil Dead series.
Yeah.
At least, some of the films at least.
Most of them.
Sean, what's your mostly horror rec of the week?
Well, today is Godzilla Day. Not for the listeners, but today is November 3rd. It is Godzilla Day. I have kaiju on the mind. I don't know that we've obviously talked about this before. I think I did just like a kaiju rec recently because I went to a Godzilla event, but I'm just going to double down and say throw on whatever kaiju movie you want, but specifically I think I'm going to watch both Pacific Rims today.
I feel like this was your rec last week.
Was it? No, not last week. It happened recently because I went to that Godzilla event for Godzilla -1. But yeah, I'm doubling down because it is Godzilla Day. I really do just have kaiju on the mind, and I specifically am going to watch Pacific Rim 1 and 2, I think.
And I'm going to just butt my way into your recommendation and add on that everyone should watch Shin Godzilla because it absolutely fucking slaps.
We talked about this.
Yeah. What do you think of? Have you seen like stuff for -1? What do you think? Are you?
I saw a trailer recently, and I'm really excited to check it out. It looks really cool.
It looks.
The new IMAX poster just came out today as we're recording this, and we should all go see it in IMAX because it'll be.
Hell
crazy.
yeah!
Yeah,
let's do it.
I have Shin Godzilla, but need to watch it still.
Nice. Humble brag. They gave me an exclusive Godzilla -1 poster that only existed for the event that I went to at the Japan Society. Yeah, but I have to. Wow. I've run out of room. I have a very small apartment. I need to get a frame and get it framed and get it up. It's still just a roll sitting next to my record player. So
you got to do it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Steve, what about you?
My rec of the week is going to be something that I mentioned earlier, and it's going to be totally different than anything that we've been talking about. But I recently saw the film Anatomy of a Fall. This is a French courtroom drama that won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, and more importantly, won the Palme Dog Award, which is the award given to best canine or best group of canines in a film at Cannes. It is yeah, I love that it won that. I basically was really curious to see this because the premise is really interesting, and I frankly will go see anything that is called like the best film of whatever. So I immediately was interested. It has a great poster as well that drew me in. But the premise is there's a writer, and she has been accused of her partner's death. And she has a son who has some sort of blindness, and basically it turns into a courtroom drama. And despite the love story or whatever that Taylor Swift song is coming through into our theater, as I'm watching this courtroom drama, it's riveting. It is written so well. It has the best use of like musical motif in a film that I've seen in a really long time. And not that this will spoil anything, but like a French courtroom is so different than the American courtroom that we're used to, and it's fucking crazy. And so to at least an American audience member, the second half of the film was captivating, if only because I was so curious about how a French courtroom worked and was just like flabbergasted the whole time.
Is it like,
but it's so
just over there? And is it like just over there and like I don't know, things go well and bad people don't get off? And is that what's different? What's different? Is there actual justice? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really weird to see. I'm not used to it.
Right.
But yeah, I want to recommend it. It's probably not showing in a lot of theaters. right now, but if it is showing near you, definitely go see it. If you're interested in any sort of thriller, drama, anything along those lines, it is fantastic. One of my favorite films I've seen this year, probably in the top like 3. So gotta recommend it this week.
Right on.
Yeah,
Check it out.
I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, it's a great one. I'm curious what you think when you're done seeing it. On that note, that wraps up our mostly horror recommendations of the week. As always, if you have any thoughts on our interview, on any of the million things that we talked about before our interview and our intro, send us an email, mostlyhorrormovienight@gmail.com. I will say we had our good old pal Rob sent us an email last night, which I'm really excited to get to. I say our buddy Rob. I don't know who this man is, but we had someone send us a really long email about our recs last night. And I'm really excited to read that. So be like Rob and send us an email, mostlyhorrormovienight@gmail.com. You can tell us anything you want. Just don't admit to the death of someone. You can also find us.
We have legal obligations.
Yeah, we have to tell someone. Instagram @mostlyhorrorpod, Twitter, TikTok @mostlyhorror. Adam, do you want to tell us where we can find Eye of the Duck?
Yes, you can find Eye of the Duck on all podcast platforms, but of course, a week early and ad-free on Amazon Music and the Wondery app, or the Wondery subscription in your Apple Podcast app. And you can find Eye of the Duck on all social media @Eye of the Duck Pod. You can find me on all social media @AdamVol. And you can watch my films at adamvolerich.com.
That's something you should definitely do. More ats for you. I'm everywhere @StephenIsAverage. Sean's on all the socials @Hypocrite Inc. or Hypocrite.inc. And that is all that we have for you this week. We will catch you next time.
Goodbye.